All right, guys, in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to create the Instagram logo for our Instagram is a lie assignment. Let's go ahead and get started. I've got my photo open here that I'm going to be using, and there's a few other things that I'm going to need to make this work. First of all, if you look in the photo drive here on your computer, you'll see down here at the bottom a file called Instagram Photoshop Actions. We need to get this open in Photoshop. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to double click on this. And that's going to launch Photoshop, and it's going to, if I pull up my Actions panel, by going to Window, Actions, you can see I now have this folder called Instagram Photoshop Actions that has 30 different Instagram Photoshop actions in it. I also have the ones that we made here in class, so all of these that hang out here in this Actions folder, and if I wanted to, I could actually combine these, which means I could just come up here to Mayfair and just drag this into this Actions folder. And that way I have all my Instagram actions in one place. So that's kind of a neat little thing. And then once I've got them all in there, I could then actually take this folder and I could just click and drag it down to this garbage can down here, which allows me to delete that folder and leave me with just this one right here. So that's kind of cool. We've got a lot of different actions, a lot of different things I can try on my on my photograph. There's another folder that we're going to need in this folder here, and it's the Instagram folder. If I open this up, you can see there's 3 files in here: bottom bar, middle bar, top bar. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to right click on this and choose copy. Please choose copy. Remember, if you accidentally choose cut, which I just did, I'll right click again and just choose copy. You're not stuck if you accidentally choose cut. So just hit copy. Then go into your period folder, and all the other folders are gone because I'm doing this at home. But here's my folder. I'll come in here and I'll right click and I'll choose paste. And I'm just going to leave those there for now. And let's go back to Photoshop and get started on the Instagram process. All right, this first step that we're going to do is probably one of the most important ones. If you miss or mess up this step, everything else that we're going to do is not going to work. So please make sure you follow along to this step right here. Before I start doing anything, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to go to Image at the top of my screen, and I'm going to choose Image Size. And you can see we have this set to a resolution of 72 pixels per inch. Now, there are a ton of pixels here. This is a very printable image, even though it's at 72 pixels per inch. But what we need to do is convert this to 300 pixels per inch. Watch my file size. If I come in here and I just change this to 300, bad things happen. I just made this an almost 900 megabyte file. That is not what I wanted to do. What I want to do is I want to change it to 300, but I don't want to increase the number of pixels. I just want everything to kind of change as I change this number. And I can do that by unchecking this box right here that says resample. I click on that, and then I change this to 300. And you can see my inches changed, but my file size stayed the same. My image size stayed at 51.3 megabytes, which is kind of cool. And you'll see why this was so important later on. But for now, I'm just going to go ahead and press OK. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up and grab my rectangular marquee tool. It hangs out right here. It's the second tool from the top. Keyboard shortcut is M. And I'm just going to click and drag a selection around the part of the image that I want to put my Instagram filter on. But before I let go, I'm going to look very closely at that little black box. See how mine says W4.627? That's a very important number, and I have to remember it. That's not true. I don't have to remember it. If I forget it later on, it's going to be okay. But I'm going to try to remember 4.627. I'm not going to worry about the height, and obviously your number is going to be different than mine. So 4.627, got it. And I'm going to end up with this selection here, this area around my photo, which has a selection around it. And then what I want to do is come up here and I want to go to Edit, and I'm going to choose Copy. And now I need to get what I just copied into its own canvas so we can run the filter on it without messing anything else up. So what I'm going to do is go to File, New, and you're going to just ignore everything on here. Photoshop knows what I'm trying to do. Anytime you copy something, it sets up a new canvas for you. So these numbers are actually exactly what I want. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on Create, and then I will go to Edit, Paste. All right, so the first thing I want to do now that I put this image in here is I want to flatten this, because having 2 layers in here can sometimes confuse your actions, especially if the actions were written for a layer or for an image that only has 1 layer. So before we start, let's just come up here and click on this menu button up here in the top right-hand corner of the Layers panel, and just go to Flatten Image, and that'll smash both of our layers together. It'll make life a little bit easier. And now I'm going to expand my Actions panel by either clicking on this button right here. If you don't have it, you can always just come up here and go to Window and choose Actions. And you can see I've got my Instagram Photoshop actions, and I've got this render all button. And what this is going to do is it's going to play all of the actions in the folder, with the exception of the actions that I added in earlier. Those ones will not play because the action's not written to play those. It's only written to play the ones that were already there. So I'm going to go ahead and just click right here on render all, come down here and click on play, and we'll pick this video back up once that's done. Okay, so all the actions are done on this photo, and what I can do is, you can see I've got all these folders here in my layers panel. I'm done with my actions panel, so I'll just minimize that. And I can just go through and turn off one that is currently turned on and turn on a different one, and just go through and pick one that I like, that I think works well with my image. And I actually really like that very first one. I'm just going to go back to Brooklyn and turn it on. And then don't forget that you can also click on this folder right here, and you can lower down the opacity, which would basically be the equivalent of lowering down the intensity of your filter. But I really actually like the way this looks, so I'm going to leave it just like that. Now, before we can move on, we need to flatten this image again. And you can see I've got a ton of folders and layers that I'm not going to use, but don't worry about that. When I come up here and go to Menu and choose Flatten Image, it's going to ask me if I want to get rid of or discard all of the unseen or the hidden layers, and I do, so I'll just press OK. And that's going to smash that all back down into one layer for me, which is perfect. Now, I'm going to go to my keyboard. I'm going to press Control A. Control A will bring up a selection around my entire photo. I'm going to go to Edit, Copy, right there. And I'm going to come back to my other image. And my selection is still there, thank goodness, because now I'm going to just drop this right back into there. I'm going to come up here and go to Edit, Paste Special, Paste Into. And that's going to drop that filter right on top there and make it look like the filter is only on that part of the image. I do want to make this filter stand out just a little bit more. What I'm going to do is come over to my background layer and click on that, and then I'll come up to Image Adjustments, Levels. And I don't use these output levels down here very often, but I'm going to go ahead and just bring this one in a little bit, and also this white one in as well. And that's just going to kind of fade out the background a little bit. See if I turn my preview on and off. It just helps the Instagram filter stand out just a little bit more. So it's a little bit easier to see, and I like the way that looks. So I'll go ahead and just press OK on that. Okay, we are ready to move on, but guess what I've done? I've forgotten what my number was, what my width was for right here. And I'm going to assume that that's going to happen to some of you, so I'm going to show you exactly how to fix that if it does happen. It's actually really easy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down Control on my keyboard. I'm going to click right here on this part of my layer 1. And what that does is it brings back the selection around that part of my photo. And with that selection there, all I have to do is come up and go to Window and choose Info, or press F8 on my keyboard, and the Info panel pops up. And this box, this little bottom right, is telling me the width of the selection, which is 4.627. All right, so hopefully I will remember that this time. So I'll go ahead and press Control D, and we are ready to move on. Let's go to File, Open, and I'm going to need to find that photo drive folder. And I'm going to come in here to period 2. I'm going to find my folder. I'm going to find the Instagram folder. Let's just open up all three of these, bottom bar, middle bar, and top bar. I'll go ahead and just click on Open. And let's just cruise through these real quick. Let's start with the bottom bar. You can see it's got my heart, my quote, or my comment button, the three little dots. And all I need to do is just flatten this image again. So I've got a lot of layers here, and I don't want all that many layers. So I'll just again come here to the top right hand corner and choose Flatten Image to smash all those together. Now I need this to be the same size as my photograph is, or of my Instagram filter is over here. And that's why it was so important that we knew the width of our box. So I'm going to come up here and go to Image, Image Size. And you can see this is already set to a resolution of 300. And I need this to be at 300 because I want it to match the resolution of my other image. And now I need to change this to be the width that my image or my filter was on the other one. But if I just come in here and type it in, you can see as I type in numbers, my resolution is changing. And remember, I need that to be the same number. I need that to be 300 because that's what I had in my other image. So let me reset. So what I want to do is I want to make sure, I want to uncheck, or I want to recheck this resample box. And so that way when I change these numbers up here, this number down here is not going to change. So I'm going to pop in 4.627, which is what my width was, and I'm going to go ahead and press OK. And now I'll just grab my move tool, and I'm going to click and drag this over to my image here. And I'm going to come down here and drop this bad boy on here. And if I did everything right, that should match up perfectly, which it does. Beautiful. Now let's go to middle bar. And you can see I got a few things I need to do here. I'm going to grab my text tool first of all. Remember, to edit text that already exists, you just select your text tool, keyboard shortcut T, and you slowly move your cursor towards the text until those little dotted lines or those little dots that are around the cursor disappear. You can see as I get close to the word username, those dots disappear. And that means I can now edit text that already exists. So I'm going to edit this text and just put in my Instagram username. And a couple different ways to tell Photoshop you're done typing. You can press the Enter key by the numbers on your keyboard, or you can check this box right here. Check this little check mark. Now let's edit the location. Again, I'll just move my text cursor close to the text until the dots disappear. That allows me to then click and drag and select it. And go ahead and choose that and press the Enter key by the numbers to get that. And now I need to drop in a photograph for my profile pic. Before I do that, I'm going to come over here and I'm just going to click on layer 1. Layer 1 is the blue circle. You can see right there, that's the only thing that's on that layer. And I'm just going to click on that and you'll see why I did that in just a second. Now I'm going to go to File, Open, and I'm going to find a picture that I want to use for my profile. So here's a nice picture of me. I'll just double click on this to open this up. And I'll come in here and grab the Move tool. And I'm just going to click and drag this over to my other image here. And oops, wrong one. I'm going to drag it over to middle bar. And drag it down here and let go. And you can see it's way too big and fills up way too much space. But it did show up right on top of layer 1, which is exactly what I wanted it to do. And that's why I clicked on layer 1 first, because whenever you drop a new photo in, it will always show up on top of the layer which you selected. If it didn't work out, if for some reason it's not there, like this example, just click and grab it and drag it down so that it's right above layer 1, just like that. And now I'm going to Control T this bad boy. I'm going to have to zoom way out so that I can see the whole box. And I'll do Shift and Alt and drag from the corners to make that much, much smaller. And I'll click and drag this in. I'm going to put that right about there because now what I'm going to do, well, first I'll press Enter to tell Photoshop I'm done with my free transform. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to right click on layer 2 or whatever layer my profile pic is on. I'm going to choose this Create Clipping Mask option. And see how that makes it so that my photo only shows up through that blue circle. That's kind of cool because now I can move it around. I could Control T it again, do a little Shift and Alt and drag from the corner and make it a little bit bigger. And then just press Enter. And now I've got my middle bar all set up. Now all I need to do is flatten this image again. So I'll click on this and choose Flatten, or Flatten Image. Then I'll again come up to Image, Image Size. Make sure resample is checked, and I'll change this to my new width. Oops, 4.627. Press OK. Grab my Move tool, drag this over here, drop that on top there. And I only have one more thing to do. I'm going to come over here to top bar. This is the easiest one of all because it requires no changes. I'm just going to go to Image, Image Size. Change this width to 4.627, press OK, grab my Move tool, drag it over, drop it into place. And just like that, I'm done. Let's zoom in and just make sure everything kind of lined up the way it was supposed to. Looks good, no gaps there, everything looks solid. Down here, everything looks good. I really like this. Let's go ahead and save this up. Of course, we'll always save our work as a PSD first. So I'll say come into my folder here. Come in here and just save this up as a PSD. Call it Instalie Finished. And then, of course, I also need to save it as a JPEG because JPEGs are what I turn in on Flickr or on Canvas or any of that stuff. So I'll click on this, change this to a JPEG, and save it as a JPEG as well. And, of course, when this box pops up, I always just put in 10 and press OK. And that's it. We have just finished the Instagram as a lie assignment. Nice job.